Welcome to Urania Universe. In this video, I will give a brief overview of the astronomy and ritual of June solstice. This is video 4 of 8 in the series I call the Wheel of the Year. The Wheel of the Year essentially comprises 8 significant points that we here on Earth essentially see the sun make as we orbit the year or orbit the sun in that yearly span of time. This is also considered to be the 8 Sabbats in most pagan traditions, and it is also observed and celebrated by other cultures as well. So, what is June solstice? One of the ways to answer this question is to look to the astronomy of this moment in time and space. Also, it would be a good idea to reflect, just to refresh ourselves, on March equinox and where we were at that point with the astronomy, and then how we got from there to June solstice. I will also note that I will try my best to share the astronomy perspective as from Earth as a whole, Earth as oneness, and what is happening in this journey, in this moment in time. And then through the ritual, I will share it, it will be more relevant to what season you are in, right? Where you are on the planet. Reflecting on March equinox, we want to take into consideration planet Earth as a whole in this perspective. Planet Earth in relation to the sun. And so at the moment of March equinox, sun is shining directly over 0 degrees of tropical Aries along the celestial equator. The celestial equator is a projection of Earth's equator onto the heavens. Moving beyond this point, or following that moment of March equinox, sun begins to ascend northward to its most northern extreme, which is June solstice, or the tropic, not necessarily and the Tropic of Cancer. The halfway point, the cross-quarter day between March equinox and June solstice, is usually traditionally observed around May 1st or May 2nd. If you want to learn more about March equinox and the cross-quarter day, also known as Beltane, which happens around May 1st, consider watching the videos that I have shared on those specific days. You can find that link in the description of this video. We can gain more insight into this moment in time and space when we consider the language that is being used here, the root of the language of solstice, of Tropic of Cancer. So solstice, it has Latin roots. You break it down to sol sistere. Sol equates to sun, and sistere equates to stop or to stand still. So the sun, as it reaches the Tropic of Cancer, and we observe it as the solstice, the sun stops, or we have the sun stopping and apparently standing still. Tropics has Greek roots, and the Greek word, essentially the Greek root word is tropikos, which equates to turn or change. So when the sun reaches the Tropic of Cancer, the sun stops and essentially turns around or changes direction. So following that moment of the June solstice, the sun, from our perspective here on Earth, will stop, turn around, and begin to descend downward. And I will show you this in the software Stellarium, right? On Stellarium here in a second. The Tropic of Cancer is approximately 23.5 degrees north of the equator, which synchronistically enough is the tilt of Earth, 23.5 degrees. This moment, or this point here of space, right, the 23.5 degrees north, essentially is the boundary in which the sun will shine directly overhead. Right. So, and this is why the tropics is, such an amazing place to, it's always has pretty much nice temperature. And that's because the sun for, you know, a period of time can shine directly overhead. So I'm sitting here in upstate New York, and the sun never shines directly ahead, overhead. As you see here, the Tropic of Cancer is the red dotted line here. And that essentially is 23.5 degrees north of the equator. And this is where the sun will shine directly overhead. This is actually the boundary. It is the maximum point in which the sun, it's the maximum northern point in which the sun will shine directly overhead. So this is considered to be between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, which if you see there, the Tropic of Capricorn is south of the equator, and it's approximately 23.5 degrees south. That boundary between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn is where the sun will shine directly overhead at moments in time, right? And the tropics, again, are the points where the sun stops and turns around, right? For 2023, the solstice, that moment in time in which sun reaches 23.5 degrees north of the equator, aka Tropic of Cancer, the exact moment for where I'm sitting is going to be June 21st at 10:58 a.m. Eastern time. Now, if you want to learn when this will happen for your location exactly, basically the time, you know, the exact time, even though it's happening at the same moment for everyone here on Earth, it will be a different time depending on where you are on Earth. Check out Solar Events Calculator. It's an amazing website. You can also learn exactly when the equinox is for your location, as well as, you know, winter or December solstice and the cross quarter days as well. So it's a really, really amazing website to kind of just, you know, have for reference, and then also to explore, because there's some other things there too. Another fun fact about solstice, June solstice, and this is actually following June solstice, so about in the span of a week or two post the solstice moment, Earth will actually reach its most farthest point from the sun. So Earth is moving a little bit slower around June solstice. And then in its reflection of December solstice, the Earth is at its closest to sun, so it's moving a bit faster. Now, we don't really experience this difference or this slower motion or faster motion. Mostly, from what I've learned, it's only about 1 kilometer per second is the difference. So it's pretty interesting, though, to reflect on, like, is that a coincidence that we have the closest point and the furthest point, you know, from the sun? That is it a coincidence that it's around the solstice points? Also, this doesn't really have a factor on the nature of the seasons or the nature of the solstices. And what we experience as far as the seasonal reflections, that is due to the tilt of Earth, which is 23.5 degrees, which is interesting, right? All these alignments and synchronicities are wonderful. So here's a nice little visual for you. And this is astronomy software known as Stellarium. It is actually free for computers, for Mac and PC. So I will share the link in the description of this video if you're curious of downloading this for yourself and would like to play around with it. I've just begun to get my feet wet with it. So this is going to be really brief as I am learning this whole system with you all. All right, so what we're seeing on the screen here is, this is from the location of where I am right now in Syracuse, New York. And I have the date, if you see down here in this little box, for the date is for December 21st of 2022. So we are back at December solstice of 2022. And this is actually an hour before the solstice, because I wanted to show you where the sun is. So the sun's getting ready to set. You see here this red line is the ecliptic plane, which is the apparent path of the sun from our perspective here on Earth. And the green line is the celestial equator. So I wanted to give you a reference of how sun ascends and descends in reference to the equator, in reference to, you could say, almost like the center of Earth, right? And so I will go ahead and move it forward, but wait, just see, actually just want to point out again that we are south here of the equator. And this is just the, the directions of the equator, right? Or the cardinal directions, I'm sorry. All right, so let's go ahead and move it to the exact moment of solstice. The sun has set here in this location, and we have Mercury and Venus, which is really cool, is about to set, and we have all the planets here. So Jupiter and Saturn were visible around solstice, and Venus and Mercury possibly as well, depending on, your viewing point. So we're going to move time ahead to March equinox of 2023. So let me just go back again to December. So keep your eye here on the southwest horizon, point of the horizon. And so January, you see that the sun's path actually is what we're going to pay attention to. So the red line. So let me go back one more time. Sorry about that. All right. So red line here, keep your eye on that. So that actually is moving ahead, right? And so now we are going to be on March equinox, which is March 20th at 17:25, 5:25 p.m., right? All right, so this is the moment of March equinox of 2023. Now I want to zoom in a bit. And if you could see here, the red line being the path of the sun, the ecliptic plane, and then the green line being the celestial. Sun is right on that celestial equator. And while I'm not actually at the equator or somewhere around that point in space, I am, or this is the moment when the sun will rise over tropical 0 degrees of Aries, right? And so if you get a little bit more savvy with Stellarium, which I hope to do in the future, I can actually bring up the coordinate system to see exactly, okay, the points. But as you can see here, just for that simple visual, we have that right here of the sun right there. So that's a nice meeting there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and zoom back out, and we're going to move up to June solstice. And I actually have, I want to say I have the atmosphere off. So it appears that it's night, even though, as I'm about to show here, June solstice is on the 21st, and it's at 10:58 p.m. in this, or a.m. in this location. So it should be morning time, right? And I'll flip it over and show you. But look how far up or far north the sun is, the path of the sun from the celestial equator. Very cool. And so you can see, and if I just go ahead and forward it a couple months as we approach the September equinox, you can see here that the sun is back meeting with the celestial equator. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to solstice, and I will put the atmosphere on so you can just get a bit of a different visual. See, right? So here, this might be a little bit clearer and better to see. And sorry for the fishhole lens. However, there we go. So I'll go backwards. Here we are, June solstice of 2023. The sun's path is above the celestial equator. So now we're going to go back in time. Or actually, let's keep going forward. So we're going to go to September equinox. So now the sun is descending, right? And now in September, this is probably not the exact day for equinox. I believe it is on the 23rd. But as you can see, we're still meeting here with the, we're meeting here with the celestial equator and the path of the sun, the ecliptic plane, right? So then we're going back to December solstice, and you see the sun has descended south of the equator. That visual, I hope this was helpful within your understanding of the astronomy. Of course, we can get really refined and complex with what we see here on Stellarium. And so once I get a bit more savvy, I'll share more of that. But I just wanted to give you some insight to what is happening. I hope you enjoy. On to the ritual and observance of June solstice. This is when it's really significant to take into consideration where you are on Earth, your local area. And we want to really pay attention to what is happening in the nature around us, because that will give us some idea of the correspondences, of the vibe and the energy and the messages that are coming forth through our beautiful planet. And just to recall, these significant points, Sabbats, holy days, observance days, are really focused or really centered around the connection of Earth and Sun, right? And how they, or really how the Earth orbits the Sun, but it's almost like they move around each other, right? They do a dance, and that is what's important. So in order to connect even more deeply with that dance, that natural organic dance and flow, we want to pay attention to what's going on in our local environment. And so if you are in the Northern Hemisphere, then this is the moment in which you will experience the longest day of the year. And therefore it is considered that you are entering the season of summer. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you will experience the shortest day of the year. Therefore, it is indicated that you are beginning winter. So if you're watching this and it's around June solstice and you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I invite you to check out the winter solstice or December solstice video, which may or may not be ready yet, depending on when exactly you watch this video. So please do subscribe to stay current with when that will be released. What we see in nature is very beneficial to what we can expect from the essence of this moment in time, what we can learn and correspond to the experience of June solstice. So again, the best way to connect, as always, is to literally go outside and see what is happening in the nature around you, because what is really significant at this moment in time, and with all of these 8 points that I talk about here in this series, is the relationship between Earth as a whole and the sun. And then we bring it even down deeper within connecting with Earth and the sun in our local environment. So I literally did this, and this is something that I really aspire to do within my spiritual practice and connecting with the divine and the cosmic energies. I decided to literally do this and walk outside. And what did I see when I walked out my front door? What did I feel? What did I hear? Aside from traffic and people, but that's one thing too, because people are outside more, right? So it's a little bit lively, it's more vibrant during this time of year. And, you know, if we are looking at the Southern Hemisphere, if we're in that Southern Hemisphere perspective, it's actually going to probably be quieter. It's going to be the shortest day. Therefore, there's going to be this coming inward and coming home and being restful and such. But bringing it back to June solstice perspective here in the Northern Hemisphere, it is really about vitality and vibrancy. So I walk outside, it's hot, it's warm, the sun is already beaming, and it's early in the morning. I can feel the heat, right? I can feel the power of the sun, because at this moment, or as the sun is climbing, it is climbing to the height of which it can go, right? The peak of the mountain, or the peak of that point in space in which it will shine directly overhead, right? And even though it's not shining directly overhead in my location, I still feel the power of this day or this window of time around June solstice. So I feel the heat, I hear the people, I hear the birds, and they're very lively and singing, and there's a lot of them. They're flying in the sky. Some are looking for food. I definitely always see a lot of vultures, and which actually those vultures are very present year round for me personally when I'm observing nature. And I just see the chipmunks running. I see the bunnies playing. Literally, this is something I've been seeing really for weeks now. And I look at my garden that I have in the front yard, which is a mix of herbs and flowers and just, outdoor plants, trees and such. And so I look to see what's in bloom at this time. So this is an idea of what we can get as far as correspondences. In my particular garden, I have lemon balm growing like crazy. I mean, just everywhere. I have mustard greens that have flowered and now they are seeding. I have roses. I have a nice red rose bush that's really starting to come to life right now. Like it had some blooms maybe a month or so ago, maybe a month ago, but now it's like really popping off the blooms. It's really beautiful. My sage is beginning to flower as well, and I have peonies as well as what else was out there? There was the Sweet Williams. Yeah, which I just found out the name of that because I was like, what is this plant here? So Sweet Williams. So you'll begin to see flowers popping up. And of course, we start to see flowers in the spring. We see more and more in the summer. And then when we get to the peak of summer, which is the halfway point between the June solstice and September equinox. It will be the peak of summer in the northern hemisphere and therefore the peak of winter in the southern hemisphere. But here in the northern hemisphere, we will see the full abundance of things, like everything ripening. We're beginning to start to see the fruits. My walnut tree has actually already begun to drop fruit. So it's been really, really cool to just go out and connect with nature. So that's something I would encourage you to do to get more of an understanding of what is happening around this time of the year for you. Getting more into the traditional ritual aspect of things, when we think about March equinox is the moment where, yes, there's this equal day and equal night, which there's some fun facts about that you can find out by watching that video. However, with March equinox, there's this desire for balance with the relation of Earth and Sun, Earth as a whole. We'll see the sun beginning to ascend. So it's this essence of rebirth for the whole planet, even if another half of the planet is experiencing, what is that rebirth in that southern hemisphere locality feel like for you? But as a planet as a whole, March equinox has the essence of rebirth when we see the sun being reborn and beginning to rise to its glory, rise to its height. So that, and also a local experience, is the rising of the day or the light and the setting of the or let me say this again. In the northern hemisphere, this is the light overcoming the dark, right? But at that moment of equinox, which actually it's not actually at that moment of March equinox, but again, watch the video, you will see that there's a moment where there is equal day and equal night, right? And so that balance, that essence is carried within that moment of March equinox. So that is the moment in which we set intentions, we plant the seeds, or begin the process of planting the seeds. Things begin to kind of come back to life underneath the surface. So then we have Beltane, which is the cross quarter day, the halfway point between March equinox and June solstice, in which the seeds, the intentions are activated by fire, activated by light, as we're beginning to see the world around us coming more to light, becoming more active, and literally the temperatures are warming here in the northern hemisphere. So then when we get to June solstice, this is the moment where we might not necessarily be planting seeds, like maybe we will, but the focus is really to begin to nurture and support and really start doing a lot more of the work, becoming more active in regard to what it is our intention is at, say, from March equinox, right? So there's a lot of increase in activity and of growth during the June solstice moments. Traditionally speaking, the gods and goddesses, or really the concept or what's really observed and celebrated during this time, is the sun god and the sun goddesses. And to be quite honest, when you think about the whole context of the wheel of the year and these 8 Sabbats, we are celebrating the sun god and goddess. You can argue that in the half of the year, the half of the other half of the journey, there is more of an emphasis on the dark, right? Because we're in longer nights. We can say that there is more of a focus on the moon gods and goddesses, right? If you want to expand and really, connect with the theme of dark and light, or connecting with the lanterns within this journey, which the 2 lanterns are going to be sun and moon. So the sun gods that just come to mind when I was taking notes here and doing my research is Ra, Apollo, Helios, ton of them, right? And for goddesses, of course, I connect more with the goddesses. Goddesses, we get Hathor. Hathor is definitely a sun goddess. While she's also a moon goddess, she's pretty much all of it. We have Sekhmet is considered to be a sun god or fire goddess, sun goddess. We have Athena. We have Ocean. We have, I already said Hathor. And then what I really enjoy, I really connect with the triple goddess. So we have the maiden, mother, and the crone. And the maiden is more connected with the springtime, right? That rebirth. Mother is connected with the vibe of this summertime, the June solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. So that mother aspect, right? And even that resonates with, the sun reaching that 0 degrees of Cancer. So yes, it is the beginning of summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, and it is also the beginning of Cancer season in astrology. So you can integrate that into your ritual and observances. Some of the altar items that come to mind are anything that represents a sun or a solar disk, a wand, crystals, specifically the spherical, I was going to say spherical crystals, crystal spheres, crystals that like citrine or yellow aventurine. I think about copper too. The gold, the color gold is really important. Yellow, white, red, even. Some herbs that come to mind are calendula and St. John's worts. And we're really looking at the god and goddess as we were looking at the god and goddess in Beltane, right? It's really interesting how these themes continue to carry on from point to point. In this case, I'm thinking of the sun, the power of the sun in the sign of the goddess, the mother, right? And so we have the sun being this, definitely this fire, this heat, this warm, this activation. And we have water as the mother, as birth, as creative energy. And when you think about the warmth of water, it just feels very nurturing. It feels very alive. And there's just so much potential for life and for growth with that light of the sun and the nature of water. So there's a lot of creative energy within June solstice, summer solstice specifically. So some of the themes that correspond to June solstice, and in this case, summer solstice, is divine intelligence. When we take into consideration of the sun, divine inspiration, warmth, promotion of growth, or warmth that promotes growth. And, that makes me think of fertility as well. We have power and radiance, empowerment through that divine intelligence and that divine inspiration. Again, we have the mother, the nurturing aspect, the creating space, a comfortable, cozy, supported, vibrant space for growth and success as the sun has reached its most northern point, right? It's shining its light for a very long period. So there is this feeling of success and achievement and correspondent to summer solstice, June solstice. What I really like to do, and now I'm thinking ahead, like, oh, I need to set this up. This June solstice of 2023 really moved in fast on me. One of the things that's really fun to do is to create a sun tea. So getting a big jar of water, right? A glass jar of some water, or maybe even a crystal bowl, whatever you prefer, right? You can create sun water or sun tea, or even lemonade, and just letting it steep and do its thing outside in the sun. And it's really potent to do it, you know, at the time of solstice, which naturally I missed that exact moment, but that's okay. I will do it today because guess what? It's the longest day of the year. So the sun is going to be up for some time. And so this is such a beautiful time to take in the vitamin D of the sun and be outside and connect in those ways. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed my brief overview of the astronomy and ritual of June solstice. If this resonates with you and you're enjoying my content, please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I would love to hear your perspective and your experiences with June solstice and what resonated for you in the comments below. And if you desire to support me further, I am always open to receiving monetary donations. So you can find the information of that in the description of this video. Blessings and happy solstice to you each and every year. Happy solstice. I'll talk to you soon.